So let's dive into the one thing keeping every woman fat. And it's not what you think. So there was this professor, and he was in this huge lecture hall, and he had all these students sitting in front of him, filling all the seats. And they were all anxious to see, what's this guy going to talk about today? So this professor, he doesn't say anything. He slams this huge, boom, this glass jar on his desk. And it gets all the students' attention. Now they're quiet. You can hear a pin drop. And then the professor, quietly, he starts putting these really big rocks in this jar. And then these rocks can't fit anymore. So he stops, he turns to the students, and he says, is this jar full? And the students are smiling. They're like, yeah, clearly you can't fit another rock in there. Then the professor smirks. He goes under his desk. He pulls out a bag of pebbles, dumps it in, and then the pebbles fall in between the spaces of the rocks. Then he looks at the students again, smiling, and he says, is this jar full? Now the students kind of catching on. They say, probably not. So then the teacher, the professor, he grabs under his desk. Oh, there's a bag of sand. Takes the sand, pours it in the jar, and the sand settles between the pebbles. Again, is this jar full? Students say no. And he grabs a big bottle of water, dumps it over the sand, and it settles in between the grains of sand. Then this professor, he looks around the room, he stares at the students, and he says, this jar represents your life. The big rocks are the urgent, important things, your health and your family. The pebbles, they're the secondary things, important but not urgent, job, career, hobbies. The sand, these are the little things that fill up our time, driving, laundry, emails. And then the water are distractions, like social media or gossiping. If you fill up the jar with sand or water first, you will have no room for the big rocks. But if you fill the jar up with big rocks first, aka if you put your health first and focus on that first, you can fit way more in your jar. You can fit way more in your jar. There is nothing more important than putting your big rocks first, putting yourself first, no matter how uncomfortable or foreign of a concept that might be. Because in order to be truly selfless, you must first be selfish. How can you fill anybody else's cup if yours is empty? They say it when you board a plane. Put your oxygen mask on first before putting anybody else's on. If you pass out, you can't help anybody else. If you're not your best self, you can't help anybody else become their best self, yet alone be a good example for them. And so being healthy, putting your big rocks in your jar first is more important than taking care of your husband, and it's even more important than taking care of your children. And I know that sounds crazy and controversial, but you got your husband, you got your kids because you were the best you, or you were working on you. You can't lose sight of you. We can't get tricked, or we can't be fooled into old habits of putting the sand and the water in the jar first, even though that's the things that overwhelm us and seem to be the most of in our lives. I remember when I was trying to lose weight, and I remember taking care of everybody else before me. And by the end of the day, I was exhausted. Physically, mentally, spiritually, I had nothing left for myself. Nothing. I was just burnt out. I was like a zombie. I'd be sitting in front of the TV, not even like registering what's happening on the TV, like a blank stare, mindlessly eating chips. And then I hit the bottom of the bag and I didn't even realize I ate the whole bag. I wasn't even hungry. And then after that bag, I wasn't even full. It was crazy. And, I could cook healthy meals for everybody else. I made sure everybody else was nourished and fed. But then I didn't leave any time for myself. So I had to grab what was quick. Crackers, ice cream, drive-thrus. And I even owned a gym with my husband, Ryan. We owned a gym called Kingdom of Iron. And I made sure my friends and family always showed up for their workouts. Always. But did I have time for a workout at the end of the day? No. Did I work out? No. That couch was calling my name. That couch was too enticing at the end of the night. And so everybody else came first, I came last, and my jar was full of sand and water, and I didn't even realize it. And I was very, I guess it's just, overwhelmed, like I was drowning. Like I was always one step behind, no matter how good of intentions I had. And I couldn't seem to get ahead because like who here has a huge to-do list? Like my to-do list is like a mile long and every day it's growing. When I cross off one thing, I'm adding on 2 extra things. And so, one day it kind of clued into me, oh my gosh, this to-do list that I have has never really been getting shorter. And so I'm never going to get time or find time or have the money or X, Y, and Z. I'm never going to get the thing to reach my goal. I have to make time because nothing's going to change. My life's not going to change overnight. I'm still going to be busy. I have to take care of my family and have to find time for me still. I can't change my life overnight. So what I got going on right now, I have to figure out how to make it work with that instead of fighting against it or using that as an excuse as to why I can't. And so I finally realized, okay, clearly time isn't magically going to appear anywhere. Energy isn't magically going to appear anywhere. Motivation isn't going to magically appear anywhere. I just need to make time and stick to it. And so that is what I did. I committed then and there that I'm only going to put my rocks in my big rocks in my life first. And I'm not going to let anybody talk me out of it, anybody persuade me. I'm firm on these boundaries because I know that it's going to hurt other people if I don't do this, even though it might feel like to them I'm hurting them in the short term because of this decision. But here's the cool thing. When I made this decision, I just started small. What I did was I chose to do things that once I implemented it in my life, I couldn't never do it again. I couldn't not do it. It was so small and so simple. I never went backwards. I never stopped doing it. So small things is where it starts. Like I would do 10 squats while I would brush my teeth. Easy. Required no extra time and no energy. It's 10, if I was like, God, I'm hungry and the family's eating pizza, I had the pizza. But I made sure that I had an extra side of vegetables right on the side of my pizza. Still had 2-3 slices, but I ate my broccoli. It's the small things. It's the small things. I stopped following women on social media that made me feel bad about myself, right? That required no energy. Just click one unfollow button, right? All these women with like picture perfect lives and they were born with abs, I just stopped following them because they weren't helpful and they weren't making me feel good. And so the second I just said, I'm going to do something small that proves to myself that I'm putting my big rocks first, it really was a game changer. And that is why this challenge is so cool. Because just by listening to me talk right now, what is this, 5-10 minutes of a talk? You're listening. All you got to do is just take it in. You're already proving to yourself that you're putting your big rocks forward. Your big rocks forward. And when you do this, crazy stuff happens. My stomach started to get toned, more toned than I ever thought imaginable. I thought I'd never have abs. Now I've got lines. I never thought that would happen to me. But it was because I was finally fueling my body properly in ways that weren't extremes, all or nothing, working out 2 hours a day, running and eating a salad. That wasn't working, right? And so I was finally able to be consistent with exercise because I found something I liked that didn't take hours. I didn't have to hype myself up to do it. When you find the right things, well, actually, you're only going to find the right things when you commit to saying, there's no perfect thing. It's what's perfect for me with my life right now. Not waiting for the right time, waiting for the holiday to be over, waiting for your birthday to pass. It's crazy because there's New Year's is in January, right? February is Valentine's Day. March is March break. April or May is like Easter. Then you got a long weekend. Then you've got, 4th of July or Canada's Day. Then you've got Thanksgiving and you've got Christmas and you've got all the birthdays in between. Like there's always going to be something every single month. What are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? Your jar is full of sand and water and it is hurting you. It is slowing you down. It is sabotaging you. Those are not the important things. There's such thing as feeling busy but not being productive. Who's felt like they've had a day where they've done so much and their feet hurt by the time they sit down and at the end of the day, but they're like, but what did I get done? You were so busy but got nothing accomplished. Busyness and productivity are different. When you are productive and you focus on 1 or 2 big dominoes in your day, the other stuff falls into place. The other stuff falls in between the big rocks and can fit in your life. You will never win by focusing on the insignificant things, the day-to-day things. So what? Your dishwasher didn't get done today. So what? You left a load of laundry in the dryer and you didn't fold it. Get the workout in instead. Take 5 minutes and chop some veggies. It's like little things. And this story always reminds me of our private client, Arlene. So Arlene came to us. She was completely burnt out. just like I was. Like everybody else came first. She had a very stressful job. She was a support worker, and I mean, if anybody knows that job, it is very taxing. I was actually, one of my first jobs was being a support worker, and I got beat up every day. It was brutal, very rewarding, but brutal. So Arlene was like last straw. So work was really tough. She had to drive her kids around, sports and all that stuff, super busy. That takes up your time. And then she had to take care of a sick husband. And so she had nothing left for herself. She had nothing. She was out. She couldn't do it. So I sat down with Arlene. We looked at our crazy busy schedule and we said, what are the small things that we can fit in that if we put in, they'll never fall back out? And so we implemented this very sustainable and simple plan. She went on to lose over 40 pounds, but that wasn't even like the coolest part. She just had like mental freedom. She could breathe. She felt like she could catch up on things. She felt like her to-do list was actually shrinking. And that's crazy because with the plan, we added more stuff to her plate. Being healthy, there's things you have to do to be healthy. So it actually adds to your to-do list. Nothing like crazy, but it is adding things to your to-do list. But when you do that, everything else becomes easier. Everything else falls in between your rocks and can be sustainable. That is the power of prioritizing yourself, prioritizing your health above everything else, even if in the short term it makes other people uncomfortable or other people upset or they can't understand it. At the end of the day, we're all going to die. Sorry, getting real morbid for a second. We're all going to die, and we go through death's door alone. Who do you want to walk through that door as? Who do you want to say you were while you lived? You want to say you lived for everybody else? Or do you want to say you became the best you and were able to help everybody else? And so a great way to actually put your big rocks first is to just try, right? Just trying is still proof of putting your big rocks first, even if sometimes we forget to put the big rock first. Sometimes we focus on a pebble and some sand. Sometimes it feels like those big rocks are too heavy to lift into your jar. Like, I get it. I'm not asking to change overnight, but you need to recognize that the reason we're struggling is because the big rocks haven't been coming first. And until you realize that they must, then you're not going to know what to do to actually start that process. So start small and ask yourself, future me who's reached my goal, me who's loving my body, loving my life, loving my health, and health is now easy and automatic like brushing my teeth. That version of me, what does she do different that I'm either doing now that I shouldn't be doing or that I'm not doing now that I should be doing? How do you think she acts? So ask yourself, how does future you ensure that those big rocks get focused on? Ask yourself that. Really sit down and think about that. And you'll have some answers as to how you can continue to do that long term. So I hope you had a valuable lesson today about how, even though it might seem difficult or uncomfortable to put yourself first after, a habit or a lifetime of not doing so, if you don't do that going forward, that will be the one thing that keeps you unchanged, not growing, and not your happiest. That's the one thing.